As governor of the National Bank of Cambodia, Chea Serey is responsible for overseeing and guiding the nation's bustling financial sector. She has also implemented innovative projects that have driven the adoption of financial technology in the kingdom. At the end of 2023, Focus Cambodia sat down with the forward-looking leader at Phnom Penh's Sisora Museum to discuss financial inclusion, efforts to strengthen the Khmer Real, and her vision for Cambodia's economic future.
In terms of implementing digital payments, Cambodia has become a global leader in recent years. How do you think this advantage plays out in terms of economic growth, and do you think that the impact of this can be quantified?
So if you look at, every country now, there's talk about digital economy, and in any digital economy, the backbone of it is payment system, because whatever you do in a digital world, whether it be transactions or anything, that there is a payment at the end of it. So to have a payment system in place, a payment system that is interoperable, that everyone can use, is a very important fundamental to achieve a full digital economy. So I think it helps a lot, but it's not the only infrastructure that we need. So we need things to build around it, which is, this is why in the new pentagonal strategy of the government, digital economy is one of the main angles. And around it, there's a lot more that we need to develop: digital government, digital citizen, etc. Now, with the digital payment, it helped with financial inclusion. Mm-hmm. It allowed people to be able to access to financial services easier. So usually when we talk financial inclusion, we talk about access to financial services. And in terms of financial services, we mean access to saving, access to credit, access to payment system, access to insurance. Now, of the four, the easiest way to get people in is the payment system, because anyone at any very young age will start making payment. Mm-hmm. And so if we are able to bring them onto the digital payment space, they'll be able to create a digital footprint where, and of course, the digital footprint needs to be used ethically. Mm-hmm. And with this footprint, they can use to create a profile of themselves when they become a student and they need a student loan, or when they settle down and have a family and they need a house. These create history of their payment behavior that would allow banks to better understand them, and therefore to carve a credit product that is suitable for them, and possibly, because they know them more through this payment footprint of the digital information that they have, it can provide a credit that is also cheaper.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the digital space seems to be dominated by payment service providers. Are there any plans or efforts to kind of transition that population that that only use payment service providers to more meaningful and broader digital services of banking?
Well, payment is big. I mean, it's payment, of course, for you to buy products and make payment, but in the payment, it's also about remittances, right? To be able, if you live in the urban area and your parents are in the rural area and you have to send them money, to be able to remit that money to the province efficiently, cheaply, quickly is also very important. And I don't think we've sort of understand that aspect of payment, because we see payment as paying for products and services, but also this element of remittance where there's a big social impact. The other way around, if you're in the rural area and you have children studying in the urban area, you want to be able to send money to your children to the school, as quickly, as efficiently as possible. Prior to the existence of Bakong, for instance, it was possible to send money to the province and vice versa, but you have to pay a lot of fees, the intermediary fees, for it to happen. Now you can do it sometimes even free of charge. So that is a very important aspect of how it contributes to the social well-being. The other aspect also, because you have this ability to make payments so accessible, and that's exactly what we're doing with our neighboring country to create this interoperability, is you help with tourism, right? Tourists who come to Cambodia and who's able to make payment easily, or for us to go and make payment easily. It's create this flow of people and an ease of flow of the people to make payment. And therefore, if you're able to spend easily, you also tend to spend more, which is in the end good for the economy, even though at the individual level they have to manage their finances. But overall, for the economy, it's very beneficial. Now, of course, not everyone having access to finance know how to use that properly. And that is something that we need to work on, because what is important is to educate people on how to use finances properly and not fall into a trap of too much debt. Also to give them some entrepreneurship skill. That's something we will try to work with the microfinance industries, see how they can help. But definitely financial literacy is something that the central bank has been doing through various channels, whether there's on a website they can check on, a website called Let's Talk Money. We have videos on YouTube where we make short videos educating people about managing their finances properly, about asking the right question to financial institutions. We have face-to-face interaction. We had concert around the country, so people would come to visit our booth so that we can explain about financial matters. These are things that we've done so far. We work with the Ministry of Women's Affairs to also help women entrepreneurs to be able to know how to apply for a loan, etc. But there's more to do, and we need every stakeholder to come along, be it the private sector, be it the non-governmental institutions, be it the private sector or the financial industry themselves.
Is there potential for a digital payment system that could facilitate cross-border remittances from migrant workers?
Yes, so this is also part of the initiative that we're working on, allowing remittances across the border. And the idea is that because this is so ASEAN, the premise of ASEAN is a one economy, one destiny. And we want our people to be able to cross borders and be able to work. The things that we want to make easy for these migrant workers, obviously there's a lot of things, but one of it is being able to send money home efficiently. To send money home across the border, the cost used to be about 30% of what you send. So if you're making $100 and you're making $200 and you want to send $100 back to your family, you have to pay about 30% of that. And that's a lot. So what we aim to do is to try to reduce that cost. The other things that we also try to do is to make sure that the end beneficiary is who the sender wanted to go to. Now, I'll give you an example. If you're working overseas, because the cost is so expensive, but the more you send, the lower the cost, right? There's an economy of scale. Usually, migrant worker would wait for a few months, accumulating enough before they send, so then they can reduce the cost. Now, when they send everything all at once, they have to send it to somebody in the family that they trust. But also what happened is that person in the family can also abuse of the money that they received and not using it for the purpose it was intended to. So by trying to make the cost lower, we will be able to allow this migrant worker to send money home as often as they want without having to worry about the charges. And because they're able to send money as often as they want, they can send it directly to the hospital or to the school or to the utilities or whatsoever without having to rely on one person to manage their finance. And this is really powerful for migrant workers, particularly women migrant workers, where Cambodia do send a lot of women migrant workers overseas, to be able to control their finances.
So-called de-dollarization is an important project for the MBC, and it's made significant progress. Cambodian riel is gaining traction in country. Do you see this project as being on track? And what do you see as kind of the timeline and end goal of de-dollarization?
So we don't call it de-dollarization because it's give to understand that we want to take US dollar out of the economy, which is not the case. What we want is to increase the use of local currency, and we do acknowledge that US dollarization brought in some benefit to the economy. I mean, particularly right now, low inflation in Cambodia is partly thanks to the fact that we use US dollars. So things that we import is cheaper because US dollar is appreciated against many currency around the world. So that's in a way helped. It's also helped provide some confidence for investors, the fact that we use US dollar. But ultimately, we also need to strengthen the use of our own local currency, and simply because so if we don't use enough of our own currency, we will lose certain independence, or we will lose tools in conducting our monetary policy. And as the name suggests, when you do monetary policy, it means you manage money. And you can't manage money that you don't print. You can only manage money that you print. And in this case, I can only manage Khmer Rio. And so to be able to increase the circulation of Khmer Rio, or the usage of Khmer Rio in the economy, would also provide me with a bigger influence in directing or in managing the economy in time of need, particularly right now when you see a hike in interest rate by the Federal Reserve, and everything has become more expensive, funding become more expensive. Because we use US dollar, we have to also increase the interest rate, and so the borrowers are facing difficulties because their interest rate increased. Relatively speaking, not as much as any other country, but a lot of the businesses now understand that when time of uncertainty come, you need the local authority to have more independence, to have more tool to come and help stabilize the economy.
That kind of ties right into the next question. So the real has been stable against the US dollar for decades, but given global and trickle down local uncertainties, is this stability still manageable for the National Bank?
We're able to stabilize real for the past 25 years to around $1 to 4,000 real, plus minus. So I think we will be able to do it. So far we have enough foreign exchange reserve to do that. In fact, our foreign exchange reserve is estimated to be 7 times or 7 months of our import, which for developing countries, usually the IMF would recommend about around 3 months. We're double the minimum required. So we feel quite confident that we'll be able to manage it, and hopefully that this situation that we're facing is not going to last for too long, and that the world will find peace.
Following a free trade agreement with China, trade between the countries has picked up significantly, but Cambodia has developed a large trade deficit. How do you think that impacts the broader economy as well as the currency?
The trade deficit with China will be very difficult to close because we import so much from China. We import machineries, construction material. These are high value import. But what we export, although it's increased, it's sort of a lower value product. So we export mostly agricultural products. So it won't be easy to close the gap, but what we try to do is to also increase within sort of more asset framework, free trade agreement within the asset framework, to diversify our export destination from now mainly US and the EU, we want to see more inter-regional trade within ASEAN, but also trade with other countries within the RCEP framework. And we're able to increase our trade with Japan, obviously with China, and also with other member countries in ASEAN.
Across all industries and sectors, there's a growing need to address the challenges associated with climate change. Central banks also have a role to play through supporting green finance and developing tools to mitigate and manage this risk. What are your thoughts and policies regarding climate change?
As banks regulators, we also feel responsible that we, should do something. So we are working with the banking industry to see how we can further promote green financing. And to do that, we're currently working with the IFC to develop a green finance taxonomy to define what is qualified as green financing, because if we don't have a clear definition, anyone can identify themselves as I'm doing green and get that benefit of green financing sort of incentive. Mm-hmm. So this is important, something that we need to develop. We've also now trying to work on disclosure because if they finance green project and nobody knows about it, then they probably don't have incentive. Some of the banks right now, even if they don't care about anything green, the fact that peer pressure, customer pressure for them to do it will be enough for them to do it. And therefore, to sort of require them to disclose what they've done in this aspect would also help them to do more. So we're also working on a disclosure standard, how we can help or require banks to properly disclose what they have been doing in this space. And as the central bank, we have to act by example. So we, as part of our investments, we do have money to invest. So as part of our investment, we also make sure that we don't invest in projects that are adversely affect the climate change. Mm-hmm. So deforestations, any, what's another example? Oil industries, even though those are, to be honest, sectors that are making a lot of money.
Are there any plans? It seems that the royal government with the new pentagonal strategy is looking a bit more into renewables and getting closer to lowering emissions. Is there cooperation with kind of the broader government strategies to support these initiatives?
So I know that 40% of our energy, so this is according to the Ministry of Mine and Energy, 40% of our energy are of clean source, so renewable energy, hydropowers mostly. There's also discussions about investing in solar farm. Mm-hmm. So that's our good development. Now, what are we going to do with the other 60%? So solar farming will be one, so that's part of the transitioning. But I have to also raise the fact that for countries like Cambodia, the priorities are not so much about transitioning, but more about adapting to climate change. And this is, has not been paid enough attention, particularly for developing and low-income country, because they have not emit much already. So transitioning isn't something that, is a problem to them. But to have areas of their countries flooded where it's never been flooded before, that is something that needs to be addressed with, adaptation. How can we help them build a bridge in that area? Where are we going to find that funding for them? So these are something that is actually a new concept to many, but I hope that it would pick up the momentum, and we can also discuss about there's transitioning for developed country, there's also the issues of adapting for developing and low-income countries.
Mm-hmm. How do you see the National Bank fitting into that framework of adaptation? And obviously, there will be need for funds and for capital to preemptively deal with potential risks, but also address issues as they happen.
So this is not something that one agency can work on. We need cooperations between many agencies, and not even within a domestic context, but also regional and global context. There's a lot of fund allocated for adaptation. So there's green fund projects and so on and so forth. But there is very little sort of understanding on adaptation, and it's not easy to actually define it. So the example that I gave to you about building a bridge, we need to understand that when such kind of things happen, do we go to the World Bank, for instance, and request the infrastructure financing? Or we should go to the World Bank and say, okay, this is climate-related financing. And so who are going to define where the money to build this bridge should be funded from? Still, that kind of discussion is, not a central bank will be able to sort of, define it. So it's a lot bigger issues. Where do we find? I think for us, we just try to do what we can within our understanding and within our power, which is financing only projects that is not adversely impact the climate, to encourage banks to disclose what they've been doing, to encourage them to be more transparent, and get the customer peer pressure, the public peer pressure for them to do more, if there are any. So that's something that we can do within our mandate.
Cambodia has signed memorandums of understanding with some developing countries, such as Rwanda, focused on developing financial innovation and financial inclusion and payment systems. With the success of Bekong and other MBC innovations, what role do you see Cambodia playing as kind of a knowledge leader and sharing and exporting these systems and ideas to other countries?
I think we can share and also learn a lot from these developing countries who are at the similar development stage as us. Rwanda, interestingly, has a lot of challenges that we are also currently facing. They have also done a lot of good things that we could learn from. So the MOU is mainly a framework of sharing the knowledge, but also because Rwanda has been working on their own central bank digital currency, and we thought, we have something similar. Why don't we, try to work together? Maybe you have something better that we could learn from you. So more about sharing. I don't think we can teach anyone anything. Everyone has their own problem, has their own. So they need to find their own solution, but we can share what we have done. We can share the challenges that we faced, and I think that's mainly where the angle where we're looking at it.
So you're one of the most popular progressive female leaders in Cambodia, and you also have followers, tens of thousands around the world. How do you see the more traditional view of womanhood within this context? Does it motivate you? Do you feel pressure? Or have you moved past it?
I think there are rooms for improvement. If you look at the number of women in government cabinet, we're in the minority, but really, really, really small minority. If you look at women in the private sector, in the boardrooms, they're also very little. But things are improving slowly. We've seen more women taking decision-making positions. But I think the barriers remain, particularly in terms of the mindset, where the cultural and traditional expectation of women are still there. We expect women to take care of the family. We expect women to behave a certain way, to do certain things. And that is very difficult when you're working outside and also coming home and have to meet all these kind of expectations. And I think one of the things we could do better is to provide a mechanism where women or girls have opportunity to stay at school as long as boys. Also to provide a mechanism where mothers can continue working without having to worry who are taking care of their children. So this morning I was at the cabinet meeting looking at the new budget law, and it was very heartwarming to see a significant amount of increase in budget allocation to create elementary schools and childcare center. So that's very good development. But I think cultural expectation will remain, and that's require a change of mindset. And it will take some time for that to change.